I'm not going to overcomplicate this power hour. How you feeling out there? Because I am confident as hell. I couldn't be more confident if I tried. But I'm curious how you feel out there. And look, if you are nervous, just tell me why. I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to convince you. At this point, if you made it through the entire week and you still feel there's a chance the Rams can do something and make some noise in this matchup, well, you're going to feel that way. I mean, you had 5 days to be convinced and swayed. You're not going to buy it from me now. But I'm just curious why you would feel the Rams have a chance to make this uglier than, I guess I would think it will be. I believe that the Eagles just flat out are more talented across the board. The last time these two teams met, 37-20. Saquon ran for over 250 himself. He had over 300 in the game himself. A.J. Brown had over 100 yards receiving. That talent's still here. Okay? And the Rams, even though they had a nice little win against Minnesota last week and Sam Darnold, if you think the Birds at home in front of this electric crowd after Verse ran his mouth a couple of days ago, if you think that the Birds will fold and crumble the same way the Vikings did, you're sick. You're sick in the head. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. The Eagles are going to handle business. They have an offensive line that can match up with any of the talented players in the trenches for LA. They have the secondary that can match up very well against Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. I mean, I don't really know strategically, and I said the same exact thing when the Eagles were playing Green Bay last week. Tell me where Green Bay is going to win the game. And nobody could really come up with answers. Tell me where the Rams are going to win this game. And I heard a lot about how Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford greater than Sirianni and Jalen because of the Super Bowl and all. And look, if you look at the full resume, maybe. Yes, I like Sean McVay, but here's the little twist that you have to factor in. Really, the matchup is Sean McVay versus Vic Fangio in this roster and personnel on defense. Now let's do that exercise. Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, and their weapons versus Vic Fangio, our defensive front and secondary. Does that change at all? I mean, I like my matchup regardless, even if you want to bring up coach and QB versus coach and QB. But, I mean, I love it even more when you factor in Vic Fangio and Coop and Quinion and all those cats in the secondary, CJ, GJ. I just have I have so much confidence. I don't have any fear, and I'm curious how you feel out there at 215-592-9494. We'll rip through your phone calls. I see you lining up. You can join them. Like I said, I'm not really going to overcomplicate this one. How you feeling? How you feeling? And real quickly, before we get to the phones, I want you guys to take a listen to this audio. So Jim Rome had on the Rams general manager and asked him about how they will try and focus on stopping Saquon Barkley. And this is what the Rams GM had to say.
The Eagles did beat the Rams in Week 12. Saquon had a huge game. But how different is your defense now than it was then? We know he's pretty much the same dude. How different, though, is the defense now than it was then? And how do you slow that big dude down?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody slowed him down this year except maybe Week 18 when he decided he wasn't going to.
He slowed himself down, dude.
So I'm not sure he's going to do that in the divisional round either. So I think, our defense, that was somewhere in the middle of our journey this year, or a little bit past the middle of our journey. We've evolved, but at the end of the day, it's really going to take us like on that side of the ball, our front four, our front five, our front seven. They're going to really have to take it to their OL, at least go toe-to-toe with that OL. Try to clog that thing up, because here's what I do know. If you give Saquon a hole, and our linebackers who felt it, our DBs, if you give him a hole, all of a sudden you'll be seeing Barkley, with his number on it, chasing him. But I think if you can somehow go toe-to-toe with that group, be as physical as they are, clog it up, allow him to have to work to find those creases, That way it slows him down a little bit where maybe our group can come wrangle him and tackle him and get him into some, let's call it third downs and get him off the field.
All right, I got news for you. It's physically impossible to go toe-to-toe with this offensive line. So that's where their GM thinks that they have a chance. Let that settle in. I want you to really think about that. I want you to let that sink in and digest it. Let it marinate. The general manager of the Los Angeles Rams thinks their best chance of stopping Saquon Barkley and competing in this football game is to match this offensive line. Yeah, and I'm supposed to be afraid of this matchup? I mean, come on! I've never seen that happen once. It's actually not possible. So, it goes back to my original statement. There's no reason to have any worry. I feel extremely confident. You know, I mean, right there. That was it. That was almost perfect. Almost a little too perfect. How that plays right into my feelings. All right, to the phones we go. 215-592-9494. Let's go to Andrew in California. What's happening, Andrew?
How's it going? First time caller, excited to be on.
Oh, thank you so much. What's on your mind?
Well, as someone who lives in California, let me tell you, there's a lot of bandwagon Rams fans out here, and they're definitely not going to the Eagles game tomorrow because, for that simple reason, bandwagon. So I wanted to make that as a first point. Second point, kind of what you're saying right now, if you look at their defensive line and our offensive line, it is literally night and day from the size. Look at Dickerson's size. Look at Matalata, Lane Johnson. These guys on the defensive line on the Rams, barely hitting 300, some below. Our guys are in the threes, high threes, mid threes. They're not going to get through that wall. That's just not going to happen. So we win in that aspect. Second thing, our defensive line, I think a lot of people forget Nolan Smith had an amazing game, and I feel like we're not talking about it a lot this week, but he had an outstanding game, and we didn't really talk a little bit about Jalen Carter. What do you think they're going to do with that offensive line who Stafford can't run out of the pocket and who hates the cold? So unless something miraculously happens, there is no reason why we're going to lose this game, and I think we're going to smash by 20 minimum.
I love it, Andrew, and I don't disagree with you. You're right. It starts in the trenches, and once again, it's almost a literal copy of what I'm sitting here saying last week. 1 week ago today, I had a power hour at 3 o'clock, and against Green Bay, part of the reason why I felt so confident is it starts in the trenches, and we had all pros in our trenches, and they did it, right? They had one in Xavier McKinney. Well, fast forward to today, and it's the same thing you just laid out. When you look at the defensive line and what we can provide, like Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter going up against LA's O-line, I love that matchup, and I love our matchup trying to block their pass rush and work with our run blocking. So if you win and you are more physical in the trenches with the hands in the dirt, you're winning the football game. And I just don't know how LA is going to match up with us on either side of the ball. And that's why we're so great.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So if you're just watching tape and you look at it, and from bird's eye view, pun intended, if you just look at the trenches, that's all you need to see how we're going to dominate this game. No, we don't need to hear about Cooper Kupp or Puka or anything like that, because we could say the same thing for AJ and Devontae and Dallas Goedert, all those things. We have all the weapons, but it's one in the trenches, and that's why we overpowered all these teams. And I don't want to sound too confident, even though I just said we were going to win by 20. I don't care who we play next week. I don't find another team that's close in the trenches against us. So that's how I feel. Thank you so much for taking my call. Huge fan, and go Birds.
I love it, Andrew. Thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll get to the NFC Championship game after Sunday for sure. I understand the confidence, but I'll wait to get there. In regards to dominating in the trenches, though, it absolutely begins there, and I don't see how the Rams can even try and compete even a little bit in that area. They have names, but that doesn't necessarily mean when that name, like Verse, for example, who is having a tremendous season. There's no doubt about it. Now factor in who he has to look in the eyes of. I mean, it's not close. It's not close. And that's no disrespect to him. It's really just to highlight the greatness of Jeff Stoutland and what we have here and what we have available and how we protect Jalen Hurts. And it's funny because, he just brought up Cooper Kupp and Puka and all that. And the thing is, we have answers there too. Quinyon Mitchell and Darius Slay. That interception Darius Slay had a week ago was beautiful. Just step for step, stride for stride, turns his head and makes an outstanding catch. That's the old fella, right? That's the guy who's been in the league forever. And then we got the young, spry one on the other side. We have the answers. Cooper DeJean, CJ, GJ, Blankenship's throwing his physicality out last week, putting guys, unfortunately, off to the sidelines. But that's what it takes to win at this time of the year, bringing the toughness, being the more physical team, putting them on their ass. And that's what we do. And that's not going to change. I think this is going to be a solid win as well. You're a 6-point favorite at home in this round of the playoffs, almost a touchdown favorite. That's telling you something. It's telling you something. All right, let's go to Kenny in East Oak Lane. What's up, Kenny?
Yo, Brody, what's good?
What's happening, man? What's on your mind?
So, I've been listening to you guys all week, right? Everybody, every show. And a lot of people have a lot to say about Jalen Hurts.
Yes.
As they always do. Not giving him a chance to come off of concussion protocol and, knock the rust off and everything like that. But my thing is this is what I have to say to all the Jalen naysayers, right? Everybody's talking about stats. They're talking about this. They're talking about that. They're talking about X, Y, Z, right? And before you get to X, Y, Z, what comes before X, Y, Z?
A, B, C, D, E, F, G?
W. W comes before X, Y, Z, right? Which is all we're concerned about. I don't care how many yards he throws for. I don't care how many people he spreads the ball to. I don't care how many rushing yards he has. All that matters is the W, right? That's all that matters.
You're right.
So before you get on here, start talking your X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, think about the W. And Jalen is going to respond to all the haters.
Yep.
He always does.
Yep.
And we're going to have is that what you were looking for kind of game from AJ and also Jalen. Like,
I agree,
am so
Kenny.
ready for tomorrow.
It happened against.
Go to sleep and wake up and it's game time already.
I feel that. I do. That adrenaline, the excitement. I'm with you. And I do agree, though, because the last time we sort of had that is that what you wanted to see moment, it was Pittsburgh. There was a lot of noise surrounding it. And
he responds. Whenever there's a whole lot of noise, he always responds. He does not respond verbally. He responds on the field. And people do not give him enough credit. I don't care what you have to say about him. I love Jalen. I love this team. I love this city. We are going to dominate tomorrow. It doesn't even matter. They might as well not even suit up because it's already over with.
I love the confidence today. I'm glad. Everybody's feeling as great as I am about it. And yeah, Jalen is a big part of this, and I have a lot of confidence in him. I actually believe the fact that he doesn't turn the football over is so important, and his IQ, his knowledge, his understanding, some look at it as, he's scared to throw it, or he's being too cautious, and this and that, and he's not perfect, so yes, sometimes he leaves meat on the bones, but so does a lot of these quarterbacks out there. He will miss things here and there, and yes, there's more to be desired in the passing game, but at this time of the year, not turning the football over is so important to the result. Look at what happened in the wild card round. Look at all the quarterbacks that went home and look at their stat sheets and what was happening. They were making irrational decisions. They were putting the ball in harm's way. They were trying to do too much. And when you do that, it will cost you and you'll be packing up your stuff out of the locker room to go golfing somewhere. And instead, we have Jalen who makes sure that he doesn't put the ball in harm's way 99.9% of the time. So even if it's not a 300-yard passing day, even if it's not a 270-yard passing day, hell, if he walks out of this with 11 of 19 and 106 yards, which I'm just pulling things out of the rear end here, okay? If that's what it is, 0 turnovers, offense scores 24 points, you hold the Rams to 21. Beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. The 0 turnovers is just as important as Saquon running the football, as our offensive line. It's just as important as all of the things that makes this team so successful. That is a super important part of this team winning games. And I expect to see it again. He is a smart quarterback. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Matthew Stafford makes a mistake because, I don't know, maybe Quinyon is locking you down or Darius Slay doesn't give you an inch of separation. Or how about this? Nolan Smith comes around the edge. The snow is coming down. You got 3, 4, 5 inches of snow at the link. The place is going berserk. It's a 3rd down. It's 3rd and 6. It's a 1-possession game, and Nolan Smith with the forced fumble and recovers it. Oh, my gosh. I couldn't even imagine what would be happening in this place. But so, there's going to be a moment, and someone's going to step up to have it, and it will be an Eagle. It's just what Eagle? And now I just have that vision of it being Nolan Smith. Oh, I can't wait. All right, Nick in Hillsborough. What's going on, Nick? Appreciate you chiming in, man.
Brodes, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I've got one concern.
Okay.
And that is the loss of Nakobe Dean and getting gashed in the run game. We all know the forecast. We all know it's going to be ground and pound. That's it. We've gotten gashed in the past. And now with Nakobe out, Travers put some weight on. He's got a little more swole, but that is my only concern is them running the ball against us. Can we stop it, and can we stop it often enough?
Listen,
that's it. That's my only concern.
I don't think that's unfair. The loss in the Kobe D, not that nobody has noticed. I think we've noticed, but with Zach Bond having such a great year, an All-Pro year, and your young guys in the secondary, I do think Nakobe has been pushed off to maybe 3rd or 4 in line when talking about what has been so sensational about the defense. So yeah, his loss is huge, and whether it's Trot, whether it's Burks who sneaks in there, I guess what it comes down to, Nick, is you're going to have to look at Jordan Davis and maybe those guys up front in the interior to help out just as much as whoever slides in for Nakobe. But I'll say this. I feel it's valid to bring it up, but I would be stunned with how great this defense has played this year, where if the loss in Nakobe Dean makes them so incredibly weak at run D, I feel they can rally enough, even without him, not to downplay what he's brought, but I'd be shocked if that was what changes them from being who they are to now all of a sudden a team that you can run through like Swiss cheese,
Oh, yeah. No, and I completely agree. And Trot Sr. is going to have Junior coached up. They're probably sitting right now watching film. So I get it. He's going to be coached up and have, he's going to be ready to go. But it's a snow game, dude. It's going to get messy like it did last time against Detroit, So, again, not overly concerned, but that's my only concern. Like, Jalen's going to be fine. We're going to run the ball. Barkley and our line is going to run through them. But it's just, can we stop the run? That's it. Otherwise, see you in Detroit next weekend, most likely.
I love it, Nick, and I'm not ruling out the game being here. Once again, I'll get there, but I wouldn't be shocked if Washington hangs in there. And a lot of this is because I don't know how long you can survive if you're Detroit with that many guys injured. It's insane the amount of men that they have on the IR, on the defensive side of the ball, and maybe Washington's not the team to take them down in the divisional round because of that, but I think it can help them hang around, and that quarterback's killer. That quarterback's no joke. So, is there a great chance of it happening? No, not a great chance. Can't rule it out, though. That's all. So just in regards to flying to Detroit, well, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. 215-592-9494. This is the Brodes Power Hour, as I have you until 4 o'clock when we get into some NFL playoff ball, it's just the best. It's the best. So, how are you feeling out there? Let's keep it simple. How you feeling? You nervous? If so, why? And it's okay if you are. I'm just trying to figure out exactly why you would feel that way. And if the only reason why you're worried is because of no Nakobe Dean, that's a good spot to be. I'm just saying, if that's what it comes down to, when you boil it down and you look at all the pros and all the cons, and with your cons, the biggest con on your list is no Nakobe. And I don't want to make that a shot at Nakobe. Nakobe balled out this year. Nakobe's a real reason why the personality of the defense is hard-nosed, and it is tough, and it brings that edge, and it's real. But there's a lot of great guys on this team, and I think you can, just like, think about it. I mentioned how the Detroit Lions are surviving without 15 guys. You know, I do believe in Vic Fangio. I believe in everyone else that they dig deep. They really rally together and make up for the loss of Nakobe Dean the best way they can, because that's what special teams do. That's what you do when you're great. You figure it out, and I believe they will figure it out. So that's the biggest concern on the list and on the table right now as we sit here and dissect. It's a good spot to be in. It's a good spot to be in. 215-592-9494. Would love to hear from you. How you feeling? Eagles, Rams in just about 24 hours. It's incredible. Can't wait. Coming up next, Sean McVay kind of doubled down on Versus comments about Eagles fans. You'll hear from the Rams head coach, and we'll continue taking your calls. It's Brodes here on 94 WIP.